walk the dusty road, sandals worn and frayed. We step a story told in the light and shade. The law was in his hands, the truth was in his heart. Yeshua kept the Torah from the end to the start. Walk like Yeshua, love like he loved, keep the Torah, the heavens above. He's the perfect example, truth and the way. Walk like Yeshua every day. He didn't break the rules, he fulfilled them all. From the mountains echo to the temple's call. In his every word, in his every deed, he showed us the path, the life we need. The life we need, the life we need. No shortcuts, no bending lines. His truth eternal, his love divine. Walk like Yeshua, love like he loved, keep the Torah, the heavens above. He's the perfect example, truth and the way. Walk like Yeshua every day. Through the storm, through the fire, he never swayed, never tired. He gave us a guide, a light to see. He kept the Torah for you and me. Walk like Yeshua, love like he loved, keep the Torah, the heavens above. He's the perfect example, truth and the way. Walk like Yeshua every day. He didn't break the rules, he fulfilled them all. From the mountains echo to the temple's call. In his every word, in his every deed, he showed us the path, the life we need.
Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Man, I hope everybody is having a blessed day of rest. You know, striving to enter into the set apart day, the holy day that the Most High Yah has ordained. You know, the title of the message today is the importance of the biblical diet. You know, today I'm a come against the things that religion has taught, that the world has taught, Western culture has taught, and this message is for those that truly want to be in alignment with the will of the Most High, you know, that are realizing that, okay, something is wrong with, especially, something is wrong with the Western way of eating, a lot of the information that they've given us, you know, and things that they put out our understanding, a lot of which doesn't prove to be true when you think about some of the illnesses and ailments, you know, sicknesses that people are going through. And, you know, when it comes to Westerners, man, we are some of the most unhealthy people due to, you know, rejecting the guidance of the Creator who created us, and him giving us guidelines and parameters of how we should eat. Welcome to all, and Shabbat Shalom, Israel. How to support the ministry: hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on and set to all notifications. Share this video. If you would like to donate or give an offering, Cash App is on the screen. Agenda: Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. In today's teaching, we're going to dive into the importance of the biblical diet outlined in the Torah and why it's more vital now than ever before. Yahweh, in his divine wisdom, gave us clear instructions on what is clean and unclean for a reason, not just for spiritual obedience, but for our physical preservation. In the last days, as the food industry becomes more driven by profit and shelf life rather than the quality of life, we are witnessing a rise of chronic illness, toxic additives, and genetically altered food that destroy the temple Yahweh gave us, our bodies. It's time for believers in Yahweh who follow Yeshua, the Messiah, to take a firm stand against this deception of modern food system, beginning with what we allow into our homes and onto our tables. By returning to the biblical diet, we honor Yahweh, guard our health, and prepare ourselves to stand strong in a world that feeds death while we choose life. You know, the first time that I heard somebody say death by the spoon, first time I heard that statement was by a pastor by the name of Charles Dow. And, you know, over the course of a year, I kept hearing him say that same thing, you know, talking about some of the issues and things that come from, you know, the way we eat. And that right there was such a weighty statement or a weighty phrase, because it's the stuff that we're putting in our mouth that's going to take you out prematurely. Now, I want you to understand, when you get around, you know, a bunch of Torah observers, those that fear the Most High Yah, you know, as they follow Yeshua, commandment keepers, you know, you're going to have a network of people that are going to showcase to you and reveal things that you may have not known. You know, there's some things that I catch and share with my brethren, and there's things that the brethren share with me. You know, there is a lot of stuff that is labeled as food that is cancerous, that is toxic to the body. And when you think about this stuff, it's not, and when you think about clean is not going to have all of these side effects that your body is, you know, showing signs that it's rejecting what you're giving it. Those are things that come from eating unclean, these symptoms, these illness, these chronic ailments. So I tell you, man, I'm not going to be able to cover everything in this one Sabbath teaching, but I'm going to hit on a lot of the main things. And like I said, man, this could easily be a 3-4 week Sabbath teaching as we dive into a lot of these different areas.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Why are we here today? Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. Work, Strong's number Hebrew word 4399, employment, public business, occupation, industrious, public service. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven and earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath and hallowed it. Exodus 31:13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh Elohim, that doeth sanctify you. Luke chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. And Yeshua returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him throughout the region round about. He taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Sabbath, Strong's number G4521, seventh day of the week. Etymology and definitions. Man, oftentimes we throw these words around, especially diet. Anytime you hear people use the word diet, it's usually pertaining to one of these fads that mankind has labeled for marketing, is currently trending, but we don't speak about the term in the fullness. Diet, noun, the kind of food that a person, animal, or a community habitually eats. A special course of food to which one restricts itself. So today we're going to talk about that. When you think about a special course of food which one restricts itself, that's right in the line with Torah. Okay? Greek root dietia means way of living, regime, or manner of life. Food, noun, any nutritious substance that people or animals eat or drink that plants absorb in order to maintain life and grow. Something that nourishes, sustains, or supplies. Material consisting essentially of protein, carbohydrate, and fat used in the body and organism to sustain growth, repair, and vital processes and furnish energy. A lot of what we've been taught to focus on calories, and calories is translated into energy. When you hear people talking about how your body is going to have energy, they're going to use the word calories. But sometimes, if we're not discerning the food that we're taking in, what we're eating is dirty energy. We're eating unclean energy. Okay? And a lot of this stuff has already been debunked. The calories in, calories out, a lot of this different stuff, the 3 different body types, endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, all of that stuff has been debunked. Okay? Origin. The word for food comes from the Old English word foda, meaning nourishment. Okay? Man, I don't know if you have ever experienced anything like this, but man, I've definitely witnessed some of this stuff to where, man, you have family on their deathbed and they're battling some serious illnesses and ailments, chronic diseases, legs getting cut off, feet swelling from diabetes and all of this different things. Man, one of the first things I saw this morning was a testimony of somebody who had, I guess it was like edema or something in their foot, massive water holding due to diabetes. And once they changed their diet, they showed a picture of their foot and it looked like a completely healed foot. And this is the power of eating the right things and abstaining from the things that we should not be eating, as well as not overeating, not being gluttonous. But man, I've seen people on their deathbed that know they're dying. The doctor is saying, hey, you don't have long to live. And if you don't change the way you eat, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to be up and out of here. And what do these people ask you for on their deathbed as soon as the doctor's not around? They ask you to bring them, sneak them into the hospital, some of the same food that's that's caused all these issues. Bring me some KFC, bring me some Bojangles. And then they throw tantrums when they can't get it. And oftentimes, we feel guilty and ashamed that we're not giving our loved ones what they want. But man, that holds true to death by the spoon. You sneak off and go bring them something into the hospital. They're in there eating this stuff on their deathbed. And this is the reality, man. They don't value life. And I tell you, I value life to the point where I don't want, to have all these issues and ailments behind my vain love for food. My vain love for an abundance of food that's not good for me. Okay, when you look at my 600-pound life, when we think about, people think that those are extreme situations, but man, look at America. Look at what Americans are struggling. Americans are struggling with high amounts of visceral fat around their organs. Their organs cannot function under a safe load because of high amounts of visceral fat. Your visceral fat is what is up under your subcutaneous fat. And it is what chokes out your organs from their bodily function, normal due process. And this is where you start having issues. When you think about non-alcoholic fatty liver, You don't have to be an alcoholic to have a fatty liver. But if you've got a bad diet of things you consume, ultra processed, highly processed, foods, uh, high glycemic, carbohydrates that really are not nutrient dense, you've got some problems on your hand. And you look at it, what's happening is when you go to the doctor and they give you this medication, they're not healing you. What they're doing is numbing or silencing or muting the symptoms. But when you mute one symptom, you look at the side effects of this medication and you have other symptoms that surface and start screaming. And they constantly have to give you something to keep muting the symptoms. And the reality is, man, when you change the way you eat, you change the things you eat, leave certain things alone, man, all of these symptoms will go away. You no longer have to take something that's going to cause you more problems than the initial problem you got. You no longer got to take this stuff in order to get rid of these symptoms. And the medical industry is not going to tell you this. Man, there's so many people that, when it comes to this topic, man, you've got people in the that are doctors. You've got people like Dr. Seavey. You've got a lot of doctors out there that are, sounding the alarm, blowing the shofar, blowing the trumpet, warning people. You've got people that have worked for the FDA that have come out and done videos, giving testimonies, exposing some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And these people are targeted, and mainstream, food producers, food manufacturers, the food industry wants to silence these people because they're actually disrupting the money by telling you the truth of this stuff is not healthy. Okay, man, I want to share with you a book that I read recently, and this is an amazing book. And if you can get your hands on it, or if you can check out some of this guy's content, it would do you some good, and it'll break down to you why Americans are struggling with their weight. Let me find this video. This was an amazing book. Let me see. Okay, man, this book is titled, it's Dr. Pradip, and it's spelled Pradip, Jamnadas, Jamnadas, Dr. Pradip Jamnadas. It says it's titled The Fastest Way to Burn Dangerous Visceral Fat by Gloria Lindholm. Man, that book right there, you can read in one day, and it will just, you don't need no science degree or science background to understand it. It's using common vernacular, and it's breaking this thing down, and it is such a great book. And it'll run you, let's see how much I paid for this thing. This book was $18.99 on Amazon. Once the Shabbat is over, go check it out, add it to your doggone book list, and man, that book will open your eyes. Okay, let's go back. Food and Drug Administration. FDA approval does not guarantee a product is 100% safe, but it does mean the product's benefits have scientifically judged to outweigh its known risk for intended use. The FDA's mission is to balance the risk and benefits of the product, not to certify it as risk-free. You consume these products at your own risk. Man, you think about a lot of the stuff that you can get in the grocery store, everything that you can get in the grocery store, a lot of which is FDA approved. And you think about, man, if you make your diet up, your lifestyle around some of this stuff, you're going to have some problems in life. Point blank, period. What you see is, you don't see people that eat poorly, that constantly violate the dietary instructions of Torah. You don't see them giving testimonies of great health, of deliverance, of things that they've overcome. When it comes to chronic illnesses and diseases, you don't see that. You only see that with the remnant. You only see that with the set apart. You only see that with the righteous. Testimonies of, You know, man, I obeyed Torah and let go of certain things, and all of these medications that I was on, man, I was able to walk away from. So the world isn't gonna understand the way that I'm coming from, because you know the world, Hasatan has dominion over the world. So he's perfectly fine with you self-destructing by the food that you consume. What does FDA approval means? Okay, benefits outweigh the risk. For a product to be approved, the manufacturer must provide the FDA with extensive data showing that the benefits are greater than the potential side effects and risks. This is a critical judgment call, especially for life-saving products used to treat serious diseases. And when we think about that, used to treat, you know, when it comes to the Food and Drug Administration, when it comes to the drug aspect, they are not in the business of healing. They're not in the business of curing. That's not Big Pharma's goal. Their goal is to treat. Okay, when you think about, you take a Tylenol because your body is signaling something's wrong. What that does is mutes the pain, doesn't fix the problem. Your diet, the food you consume, is what's gonna fix that problem. Maybe you're consuming too much food. Maybe you're consuming the wrong food. And people have been taught to, rather than to rely on the Most High Yah and his guidance, they've been taught to rely on pharma. Post-market monitoring. An approved product is not free from oversight. The FDA continues to monitor it for unexpected or rare adverse events that only appear after widespread use. This can lead to the FDA issuing new warnings, adding a black box warning, or even recalling the product. And when you think about the FDA, man, it is nothing more than a process of approval. When you think about the actual testing, they don't do the testing. You pay out of your pocket if you got a product to get testing done, and then they determine whether the testing was worthy or not. Specific uses. Approval is for a specific intended use. For example, a drug approved for headaches is not automatically safe or effective for stomach pain. Using a product off-label means it is outside of its FDA-approved parameters. Man, you got some of these things, some of these holistic products that have more healing properties than some of this stuff that is FDA approved. How many times have we heard things that have been FDA approved are causing major illnesses? And that lets you know that, man, there's something off about this. And some people put their trust in it and say, man, it's FDA approved. Based on manufacturer data, the FDA does not conduct its own test. I just told you that. Instead, it reviews the laboratory, animal, and human clinical testing data that manufacturers submit. This process is robust, but it depends on the integrity of the data provided by the company. Man, some of these tests, when it comes to the food, you wonder, like, how did they get a test proving that this stuff is healthy? Well, you look at some of the animals that they test this stuff on, and you'll see that they're testing some of this stuff on pigs. And pigs, when you think about their ability to absorb and not have all of these symptoms, you got to think about why that is. Why they would use certain animals that we're told are unclean to do testing on and then say it's safe for human consumption. In short, FDA approved means a product has been thoroughly evaluated and found to be safe and effective for its intended purpose based on available scientific data. You know, man, when you think about what things are compared to and tested against in order for them to come with the conclusion that this is safe or this is better or the benefits outweigh the risk, it would shock you. It is a sign of scientific rigor, but not absolute guarantee against all potential risks. You must understand that your health is in your hand and not the FDA's. You know, some of this stuff that our FDA in Western culture has approved is banned in other countries because of what I'm talking about. They don't want things in their stores. They don't want their people consuming things that are going to mess up fertility, that are going to mess up cognitive function, that are cancerous. They don't want it. But yet, Western culture, man, we're allowing the floodgates on this stuff. Anything to go for the sake of what? This right here. Man, there's a documentary out there about the FDA, and this former FDA lead guy is pretty much disclosing, what the process of FDA approval looks like. Sometimes things don't get approved because it's not in the right format. And he was pretty much disclosing how they review, talking about the fees and things like that. But this guy has left the FDA and went to go work for some big pharma corporation, getting paid a lot more, helping them get their drugs through FDA approval process because they understand it. Think about if you're a company and you've got something that's loaded with stuff that's probably toxic for people. You want somebody on your team that knows the process, knows how to get through these and navigate these obstacles and hurdles. So they hired this man, but he disclosed what really goes on. The FDA is for profit. The cost to get FDA approval varies drastically by product type, ranging from a few $1,000s for some food and cosmetic registrations to hundreds of millions of drug development and approval. For the drugs, the total cost of development and approval can exceed $1 billion, while specific application fees for new drugs are around $4.3 million for application with clinical data or $2.2 million for those without. For medical devices, specific fees like 510K submission can range from 20 to 30,000 or more, depending on the complexity and whether the product is already approved elsewhere. Approved and deadly. Some harmful substances found in FDA-approved foods include certain preservatives like potassium bromate and BHA, BHT, artificial colors like red 40 and titanium dioxide, and contaminants like PFAS and lead. Man, when you think about this, man, shout out to Ock Pierce of To Be Better YouTube channel. Shout out to Brother Boaz of the Covenant Homestead. Shout out to Brother Dre at Set Apart Gardens. Man, I was watching a video of Brother Dre, and he was just disclosing about reading the ingredients that's in your pickles. When you get a jar of pickles, look at some of the ingredients in there, and you're going to ask yourself, wait a minute. Historically, this ain't how they made pickles. Why did they put all this stuff in there? Okay, they make it to be more appealing, more marketable, to change the color, to make it look more rich. And really, when you think about this, you're getting non-GMO, not non-GMO, you're getting genetically modified, pickles, and they're not coming out, the color ain't right. So they're adding all this artificial coloring in there to preserve, to throw off. If this stuff does start to deteriorate, this artificial color will make it look like it's not. All of these different preservatives where you might have had these pickles that might have stayed in its natural form with natural ingredients. They might have stayed for 2 years, just using rough estimates. But with these preservatives in there, they're able to pretty much mass produce this stuff and stick it away in shipping containers for 10, 15 years. And you look at the expiration date and you're like, wait a minute. If that expiration date on a lot of this stuff is kicked out far, man, you need to look at them ingredient labels. When an expiration date is short, that means it's got things in there in its natural form that are going to deteriorate, that are going to break down. You got to look at this. When I look at some bread and things like that and the expiration date is 3-4 months out, that's letting you know if you sit that out on the counter and it's raw form, it's got preservatives in there to stop it from molding, to slow down the process. But a lot of your whole grain breads that are actually good for you are not going to have all that preservatives in it, but they're also not going to set as long. The shelf life is not as long. So pay attention to that. Preservatives and additives. Potassium bromate, a possible carcinogen used in flours for baked goods. Man, if you look at that Merita bread, you look at that Wonder bread, you look at the common white bread, man, look at the long list of ingredients. That stuff when you was in high school and they was going over chemistry and biology, some of that stuff, once you look it up, you'll be like, why are they putting this in food? And it's evident, man, the way, especially in Western culture, man, when the Most High Yah created your body, he created it for a certain type of fuel. And for the sake of money, they are putting A lot of things in food, calling it calorie dense, calling it good for energy. You're consuming it, but what you're eating is not even really food. You're eating a lab project. You know, man, it was the Covenant Homestead to where I had heard things about high fructose corn syrup, but it was the Covenant Homestead, Brother Boaz, that was talking about this and caused me to go look it up myself. And you look up, like, man, they're putting this stuff in everything. If you're eating, like if you buy those beef or turkey, kielbasa sausage, and you use those things, look at the ingredients in there. High fructose corn syrup. You know, this stuff is loaded in everything. And, you know, hopefully, man, I can get you to pay attention a little bit more. Pay attention a little bit more. Are you going to catch everything? No, you ain't going to catch everything. But the things that you do catch, you can remove and make a change, make an adjustment. You know, it was Ock Pierce of To Be Better, you know, on YouTube that was telling me about meat glue. When they've got a bad piece of meat, you know, that set the spoil, what they'll do is they'll put some of this meat glue on it and hook it to another piece of meat, and you will think that that's the original form. But this stuff is meat glue. What do you think is in meat glue? Okay. He also told me, and I looked it up, it was about the contaminants and the different chemicals that are in like Quaker oatmeal. You look at the study that they did on Quaker oatmeal to say that it's healthy. Look at what they compared it to. Look at what they, you know, what the comparative analysis was based upon. And you'll realize, oh snap, this stuff is rigged. Ock Pierce was telling me about, and I looked it up, he was telling me about that they're now incorporating plastic in rice. I looked that up and it was true. These countries are now, you know, advertising that, hey, if you want to recycle plastic, man, put it in rice. They got so much plastic they don't know what to do with, and they cannot repurpose in products, so they're putting it in rice. You've got people out there that are showing them take a piece of cabbage that they've got from the grocery store, put it in a skillet, and try to cook it and burn it, and it won't burn. And it's natural form. This stuff has got all kind of contaminants in it, and we're looking at this stuff, genetically modified, you know, food. When you think about it, there's something chemically, biologically, or structurally that's off in it. That's been modified from its natural format. And the reason they're playing with this stuff, not only to load us and to make the people sick, but to extract the nutrients. When you think about bread, when you look at enriched white flour, what they've done is taken the natural wheat germ out of it, and then they, on the back end, load the stuff in that they want. A lot of this stuff that your body cannot absorb, it cannot digest, and it's gonna cause you issues and ailments. Okay, BHA and BHT, preservative links to cancers that are found in many processed foods, meats, and cereals. Propylparaben, a preservative in pastries and tortillas that may cause developmental and reproductive harm. You got to think, man, there's a lot of women out there that are having reproductive issues at an early age, and when you think about this, their womb is barren. It comes from the food. It comes from the food. Preservatives and additives, artificial colors, substances like red 40, yellow 5, and blue 1 have been linked to hyperactivity and behavioral issues in children. Titanium dioxide, a color additive used in candies that may damage DNA. Phthalates, used in food packaging and equipment that can leach into food and have been linked to reproductive harm. Sodium benzoate, a preservative found in some soft drinks and processed food. Man, look at your average soft drink and look at the ingredient list. And when you cannot recognize what is in there, that's a first sign that you don't need to eat it. You know, look at if you buying you know, chicken, a pack of chicken from the store. Man, look at if it's got an ingredient list and it's got anything other than chicken on there, you got some problems. And they're putting this stuff, a lot of the meat that we're getting from these stores, if you look and see it's got all this liquid in the package, what do you think is in that liquid? Look on the labels, read the labels, and pay attention. And this is the stuff that is gonna take you out. You know, man, I grew up on all the good stuff: Oreos, Doritos, Funyuns, eating like Quaker instant grits and things like that. But when through process, man, they've put a lot of stuff in this. As good as those Oreos are, I'm not willing to die for it. As good as these sodas are, I'm not willing to die for it. So my household has made a change, here recently because this stuff is not going to show its true nature and face in the body up front and foremost. And people think because I'm consuming it and nothing's happened to me immediately, I'm good. Nope. It's one day when you go to the doctor and they're running your blood panels and things like that, letting you know your markers are elevated, your cholesterol, your LDLs, your HDLs, letting you know your visceral fat measurements and things like that. That's when you're going to realize, oh snap, something's wrong. My body is giving warning signs that something is wrong. And we go around, when you think about McDonald's, man, and how damaging that food is. So many videos on there. And I tell you, man, it took me a while to break away. Why? Because them fries is addictive. That Big Mac sauce is addictive. But the reality is, man, I'm not willing to shave years off my life for the sake of Big Macs and fries. I've got a video on this channel telling you if you like Sprite, or sodas, you can make your home organic. You can make your own home organic Sprite, carbonated water, a little bit of agave syrup, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of lime juice, and you've got your own Sprite right then and there. Outside of used to drinking sodas and anything, energy drinks and things like that, what I've been drinking is doggone water and unsweetened tea. Unsweetened tea with the tea bags. There's studies out there that show that drinking tea, the actual tea, without all the sugar and additives in there, is better for you than drinking water. You got to think about what is tea made of. So I've been drinking that, getting used to that being unsweetened, and it's perfectly fine. Making these changes. High fructose corn syrup. Consumption can lead to weight gain. You think about how much high fructose corn syrup is in a lot of the stuff that we love. Candy bars, candy, sodas, juices. Like you look at cranberry juice or something from the grape juice, high fructose corn syrup. This stuff is loaded with it. And a higher risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes. It can also cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease by increasing liver fat production and can lead to inflammation and other metabolic issues. Additionally, it may cause digestive issues such as bloating, gas, stomach pain, particularly in those with sensitive intolerances. Man, when you think about this, how many times in the black community have we said diabetes is hereditary? But what you see is people that have been diagnosed with diabetes who choose not to make a change in their diet, and they continue for their diabetes to get worse. If you continue eating these things that are spiking your insulin level, which is highly processed, which are going to be higher on the glycemic index, you're going to have problems. You're going to end up losing a foot. You're going to end up losing a leg. They're going to have to cut your doggone leg at the hip. How many people do we know that's diabetic, older people that's then lost both their legs, and guess what they're doing? Still consuming this bad food. And the doctors are telling you, you got to make a change. Man, there have been people that have been going down that path of possibly needing legs and feet amputated, and they chose to take a different trajectory of life. They changed their trajectory by changing their diet, and they no longer need medication. They got both their legs intact, and they're perfectly healthy. A lot of this stuff that we've been told is hereditary. We got to stop claiming this stuff. Just because your mama and grandmama, just because your mama, your daddy, and your granddaddy both had it, doesn't mean you're in line to get it. If you keep following their same manner of nutrition and diet, yeah, you probably gonna get it. But just sitting up claiming this stuff before you got it, come on. Weight gain and obesity. High fructose corn syrup can promote fat production in the liver, which can be stored as body fat, especially visceral fat around the abdomen, and a significant contributor to obesity. Insulin resistance. Man, when your body is insulin resistant, oh man, you're talking about you're struggling to lose weight, and why you can't lose weight. Your body is constantly in fat storage mode. Why? Because you're eating this highly processed food that's spiking your blood sugar. It never has a chance to actually get into a state of ketosis. When you think about fasting in the Bible, nobody talks about, okay, when people are doing fasting in the book, man, their body is putting off ketones. Their body is attacking this visceral fat. The visceral fat is what's going to take you out. But through regular fasting, man, you can combat a lot of these ailments. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. High intake of high fructose corn syrup can increase fat in the liver, leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and potentially other liver disorders. Heart disease. The increase in body fat, triglycerides, and inflammation associated with high fructose corn syrup are all linked to an increased risk of heart disease. Man, if you consume a lot of high fructose corn syrup, when it comes to the LDL and your HDL, when it comes to your arteries, these density lipids, you're gonna have a lot of blockage. Increased inflammation. Think about that, man. If your knees are always hurting, you got something, and you like, man, that's just that arthritis that run in the family. No, that could be your diet. Diets high in high fructose corn syrup may lead to chronic inflammation, which can contribute to a variety of health problems, including fatigue and mental health issues. Think about that. You walking around crazy, can't even think logically, can't even discern because of the food you consuming. Gastrinal issues. Man, you think about when you think about GLP-1, these injections, you got to think about right now, man, women are the leading purchasers of GLP-1 injections. Why? They're taking this stuff for fat loss, not because they're diabetic. GLP-1 was initially made for those that are diabetic. A side effect was weight loss because it's helping combat some of the insulin issues you have. But guess what? A lot of these people that have taken this GLP-1 stuff for weight loss because they struggle with discipline, they don't want to change their diet, they want something easy, they're having gastrinal issues. Man, they're having what calls like a paralyzed gut. Your stomach locks up, and every time you eat, your stomach, you're gonna regurgitate the food because you froze your stomach. And this is what GLP-1 has done to you because you took it for purposes that it wasn't really designed for. And they're just FDA approved. They saw that side effect and said side effect is weight loss. We can market it as such. And they've got all these different names for it. But when you look at the actual in parentheses, it's GLP-1. Intestinal bacteria. High fructose corn syrup can alter the balance of bacteria in the gut, which may contribute to gas and bloating. You like, man, you sit up here burping, I'm always bloated. I always got gas. That's letting you know some of this stuff is spoiling and rotting in your intestines, in your gut. It's gases being released in your doggone gut. Dopamine function. Some research suggests that high fructose corn syrup consumption may impair dopamine function, which can contribute to compulsive eating and obesity over time. Man, when you think about, let's go to the next one. This one right here, man, this right here is more addictive than doggone meth. It's more addictive than heroin, than crack. This is more addictive. Look at the American people. All these Americans didn't get obese from eating healthy. No, they're eating refined sugar. It's more addictive. Refined sugar is worse than natural sugar because it provides empty calories with no beneficial nutrients, while natural sugars are found in whole foods that also contain fiber, vitamins, and minerals. You think about macros, you've also got micros, okay? Natural sugars in whole fruits are digested more slowly. They're going to be lower on the glycemic index, leading to more stable food blood sugar level, whereas refined sugar causes a rapid spike and subsequent crash. Okay, when you think about dried fruit, look at your ingredients. That fruit is just not dried. They're adding sugar, refined sugar into this stuff. You think about a box of raisins, it's going to be higher on the glycemic index because they've dried it out and they've added refined sugar to it. Okay, refined sugar, empty calories. Refined sugar is stripped of all nutrients, leaving only calories, energy. Rapid blood sugar spike. It is quickly absorbed into the bloodstream, causing a significant spike in blood sugar and insulin levels. Potential health risks. High intake of refined sugar is linked to weight gain, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and tooth decay. Man, be surprised. Like, your whole household, if you were to change it, you can reduce the amount of cavities you're having. You got to think, man, people is going to let their children go out on October 31st, get this old trick-or-treat candy, knowing a lot of them don't know what that stuff is originally. It's the reason why they call it a trick or a treat, and they're targeting children. Look up the history of that. But your children are getting all this stuff that's got all this refined sugar in it, and you're shocked when they go to the dentist and they got 3-4 cavities. You're shocked when your doggone 17-year-old son or daughter is diagnosed with diabetes. Examples found in processed foods, sugary drinks, and baked goods. Swan, pig family. You know, a lot of people just think this of the pig that gets barbecued, but we're talking about the boar family as well. It's all in the pig family. Heart disease. Frequent consumption of pork is linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Processed pork products are typically high in saturated fat and sodium, both of which can elevate cholesterol and blood pressure. I grew up on that bologna. Put a little slit on the edges and let it curl up and get that crust. I grew up on that stuff. But potted meat, Vienna sausage, I grew up on all of that stuff. And guess what? The people that I know that eat all that stuff, they got some major issues. In old age, they got issues. Diabetes. Some studies have linked high red and processed meats in intake an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. However, lean unprocessed pork, it says, can be a healthy protein source when eaten in moderation as part of a balanced diet. Man, this right here is just some of the rhetoric that Western culture will push out here. You got all these people walking around that are calling themselves following Yeshua, followers of JC. But wait a minute, okay? JC, Israelite. You think about the prophets, the disciples, Israelite. You think about Paul, Israelite. Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes. The Most High Yah prohibited this. Western culture wants to sway you on it and say, no, you can eat it. It's healthy for you. What did the Most High Yah say? These people coming up with this rhetoric aren't the creator. They're in it for profit. And this is the reason why you see statements like, however, lean, unprocessed pork can be a healthy protein source. Man, look at the people. You look at people that eat a diet heavy in pork and look at people that don't eat a diet heavy in pork. Look at American people versus look at Eastern people. Eastern people aren't going to be as obese. They're not having all these issues. Look at Americans filled with these diseases. Okay? When you think about the dietary law in the book, was that given to the Jews? Because that's what Christian thinks. Oh, no, that was given to the Jews. But I would challenge them on that. No, that was given to the Israelites. Was the 10 Commandments given to the Jews or the Jewish community, those in Judaism? Or was it given to the Israelites? Was the law on divorce and remarriage, was that given to the Jewish community or was that given to the Israelites? It was given to the Israelites. When you think about, the Torah, sin is the transgression of the law. Was that given to Jewish people or was that given to Israelites? So there's a lot of stuff that has to be debunked because you have people out there walking around thinking, okay, the Jews got a diet, it's a kosher diet. And that, when you think about kosher, that is the process that it undergoes. But where is that rooted in? It's rooted in commentary by rabbis. It's not rooted in biblical accuracy. You got the Christians thinking, well, we got a specific diet. Paul said, let no one judge you of the Sabbath you keep, the new moon, the festivals, and the food you drink, and the food and the stuff you drink. Like the Most High Yah is bipolar and gave the Israelites a specific diet, gave the Jews a specific diet, gave these people a specific diet. No, it's not what the book says. Increased cancer risk. Processed pork meat like bacon, ham, sausage, and hot dogs contain preservatives such as nitrites and nitrates. The World Health Organization International Agency for Research Cancer classified processed meats as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning there is significant evidence that it causes cancer. Okay? Red meat, the IARC has classified pork as probably carcinogenic to humans group 2A, especially concerning the colorectal cancer. Okay, how do the doctors come up with, okay, men, by the time you're 40, you got to go get your rectum checked for cancer? How do they know women by a certain age you're more prone to breast cancer? They've done studies on this stuff. And what are they doing? You got to cut your breast off. You got to let them go in your booty hole every year after you're 40 years old, because you're highly possible that you've got cancer. They know that you've got this stuff. And what do? They're not focused on cures. They're not focused on healing, divine healing. What do they do for breast cancer? They want to sell these little ribbons, sell t-shirts. They want to market it for the sake of money. But nobody's looking into a holistic approach. You got to think, man, there's women out there that have done the research and have changed their diet, and this cancer they've been able to save their breast because of a change of diet. I tell you, man, when you think about a man who has a poor diet, man, and being obese, is not the only sign that you've got an unhealthy diet. You've got skinny people that are dropping dead due to heart disease. You look at skinny people that's got diabetes and things like that. Look at the foods they consume. So we say, man, that person's look healthy because they don't look out of shape, but you can't see the inside condition, the wear and tear that they're putting. You think about a crackhead. How many obese crackheads have you seen? But yet they're dying faster than anybody. Got to pay attention to this stuff. And a lot of these studies, man, if you pay the right group the right amount of money, they can make a study and give you the exact results they want. They're going to ask you, what results are you looking for? And based upon those results, it's going to determine how they manipulate the study, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And that way you can push this stuff forth, and it'll be like, oh man, this is healthy. It has healing properties. No, it's the reason why demons was casted into pigs. They're a filter. Food allergy. Common food preservatives that can cause allergic reactions include sulfates, nitrates, and nitrites, and benzonates. Reactions to those preservatives can range from mild symptoms like hives and itching to more severe issues like asthma, exacerbations, and anaphylaxis. People with asthma be at a higher risk for sulfite sensitivity. Imagine you having allergic reactions, and the FDA knows this stuff, and guess what they do? They still put it out. A lot of this stuff is causing migraines, it's causing headaches, it's causing swelling in the brain, it's causing your body to hold excess water. They don't care as long as they get their money. Other countries care. They're not allowing this stuff to poison people. So what does that mean? This means that you gotta doggone take your health, into your own hands. The reality. Many people who disregard dietary laws given in the Torah are often the ones struggling with the highest rates of chronic illnesses and health problems directly tied to what they eat. The Most High gave us his dietary commandments and instructions not to restrict us, but to protect us, because he knew that consuming what is unclean and unnatural would lead to disease and decay in the body. Modern studies confirm this truth, showing that upwards of 85% of the foods that make up the American diet are processed, filled with harmful chemicals, preservatives, and additives that slowly destroy our health and shorten our lifespan. These foods are engineered for profit, not nourishment, and they stand in indirect opposition to Yahweh's natural design. Those who ignore his wisdom and consume these toxic products are reaping the physical consequences of spiritual disobedience, proving once again that Yahweh's word has always been the blueprint for true health and longevity. How long do you want to live? Now, none of us can escape. When them death angels come, get you. None of us can escape that. But man, you can ensure that you're not leaving up out of here prematurely. Hasatan wants you to leave up out of here prematurely. He wants you to eat yourself to 500-600 pounds. He wants you to eat to your doggone. You got so much visceral fat around your heart. You got heart failure. He doesn't come to heal. He doesn't come to deliver. He comes to seek, kill, and destroy.
So 3 principles. Eat the food God called food. Meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grain, legumes. That's God's food. Anything outside that is a lab experiment. Eat it as close to its original state as possible. So an example, eat the orange versus drinking the orange juice, right?
Right.
Eat God's whole food. Like eat the whole cauliflower versus the cauliflower rice, okay? Like the broccoli shouldn't be mushy, okay? The cabbage shouldn't be mushy. Collard greens shouldn't be mushy. That's where the nutrients are, right? And then the third principle is do not allow any food to become your God, which means no addictions. So that's where the sugar comes in, the sugar, the salt, the chocolate, the chips, like all this.
You say clean and unclean doesn't apply to me. When you obey his Torah, because you don't consume those things, you're walking in righteousness on some level. You're obeying God's commandments. And so you're blessed by those things. But if you walk in disobedience, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to wrap my shrimp up with bacon in my freedom in Christ. In your freedom of Christ, you're going to go sleep with a prostitute too? Because they're both called abominations. Your food and joining yourself immorally to a prostitute, abomination. Sexual immorality is an abomination before the Lord.
Hey man, just wanted to share that with you. Brief little clip. Eating organic, man. She said something, eat food in its natural form. Man, I grew up on, when you think about those bags of mashed potato where you just add water and whip it, man, look at the ingredients on there. Look at the ingredients on that stuff. Man, if you want to eat mashed potatoes, man, start off with an actual potato. When you think about a lot of the stuff, look at the ingredients in your Jiffy cornbread versus if you were to take the raw ingredients and make this stuff yourself. You can make a better product, a better tasting and a healthier product by making this stuff in raw form rather than getting this stuff that's highly processed. A lot of these different anything that's not in its raw form, it's gonna have some of these preservatives. Even your frozen vegetables, your canned goods, they've got these preservatives and things in there. And man, you got to transition yourself away from eating this stuff that's been processed. She said it's a lab experience. And that dude broke down. He broke it good, man. People will reject the dietary laws of the book, and just like he said, man, it's outlined as an abomination. But people will say, man, I'll do it because because of grace. I'll do it because of my freedom in Christos. Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. So Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of the entire earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed. It shall be for you food. Revelations 22:2. In the middle of the streets, on either side of the river, was a tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Think about that. Daniel chapter 1, verse 12, verse 16. Please test your servants for 10 days and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the young men who eat the king's finest food be observed and compared by you, and deal with your servants in accordance with what you see. So the man listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, it seemed that they were looking better and healthier than all the young men who ate the king's finest food. So the overseer continued to withhold their fine food and the wine they were to drink, and kept giving them the vegetables. Think about that, man. You got to think about, when you go to places like Golden Corral, or you're eating a salad, man, people love that ranch salad dressing. Look what that ranch is loaded with. Look at what it's loaded with. You know, when you think about some of these things that we put on our food, these condiments, man, they're loaded with high fructose corn syrup. You know, if you've ever had organic ketchup, it's not sweet. It's more sour. It's more tart. But your Kraft, your Heinz ketchup that's in your average restaurant, loaded with sugar, loaded with high fructose corn syrup. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 6, chapter 1 verse 62 through 63. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat anything unclean. Wherefore, then rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant, so they died. This is Israel. Okay? Isaiah chapter 66 verse 17. Those who vainly attempt to sanctify and cleanse themselves, to go to the garden to sacrifice to idols, following after one in the center who eat swine's flesh, detestable things, and mice, will come to an end together, says Yahweh. Man, when you think about that, that's why the Bible talks about food sacrificed to idols. And then it also talks about, you know, when you think about what not to eat, you're going to always see swine in correlation with that. And it's unclean. Why do you think they casted demons into them? And then they ran off into the sea to die. Eating clean. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 18 through 23. Eleazar, one of the scribes in a high position, and a man now advanced in age and of noble presence, was being forced to open his mouth to eat swine's flesh. So these heathens are trying to force this man to eat swine's flesh. But he welcomed death with honor rather than life with pollution, went up to the rack of his own accord, spitting out the flesh as the men ought to go, who have the courage to refuse things that is not right to taste, even for the natural love of life. Those who were in charge of that unlawful sacrifice took the man aside because of their long acquaintance with him, and privately urged him to bring meat of his own providing, proper for him to use, and pretend that he was eating the flesh of the sacrificial meat which had been commanded by the king, so that by doing this he might be saved from death, and be treated kindly on the account of his old friendship with them. But making a high resolve worthy of his years and the dignity of his old age, and the grays hairs which he had reached with distinction in his excellent life, even from childhood, and moreover according to the holy law of Yahweh, he declared himself quickly, telling them to send him to Hades. He said, man, I'm not sitting up pretending to eat this stuff. He said, I'm not sitting up here pretending to fake. Torah and diet, Leviticus 11. Man, this is, pay attention to the first verse. Okay, I want you to take an account that when you look at the word Jew, you look at the word Jews, you don't see that until 2 Kings and Esther in the Bible. We're in Leviticus. You don't see no mention about Jews, Judaism, Jewish, or Jew in Genesis, in Deuteronomy, in Exodus, in Numbers, Leviticus. You don't see it. None of this stuff was given to the Jews. Leviticus 11, Yahweh spoke again to Moshe and Aaron, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel. These people are not Israelish. Ish is something that makes something vague. You got people walking around calling themselves Jewish, saying, among all the animals which are on earth, these are the animals you may eat. You may eat any animal that has divided hoofs, that is, a hoof split in two parts, especially at its distal extremity, and choose the cud. Nevertheless, you are not to eat these. I'm telling you, people twist this. I've heard it in Christianity. They twist this. They don't want nothing to do with the Torah. Every time they go to the Torah, it's to reject the Torah, not to obey the Torah. Nevertheless, you are not to eat these among these which chew the cud or divide the hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is ceremonially unclean for you. And the chiffon rock badger, because it chews the cud but it does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, okay, hare is in a rabbit family. A hare is gonna look like a larger bunny. Because it chews the cud and does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. The swan, pig family, because it divides the hoof and makes a split hoof, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat their meat, nor touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. You think about this, man. If you consume these things, you are unclean. You couldn't even come into the temple. This is outlined. Just like a woman, when she's on her menstrual cycle, she's not supposed to touch anything holy. That's law. Okay, as a man, if you got some kind of viral infection because you some sexual deviant and you leaking from your sexual organ, you can't come up in no temple. You're unclean. You think about abstaining from sex, prior to the Sabbath, so you're not making yourself unclean. Verse 9, these you may eat, whatever is in the water, whatever has fins and scales. People will take a bit of that and say, he said you can eat whatever's in the water. So it will load you up with the front end, not read the rest of it. Whatever has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas and in the rivers, these you may eat. But whatever does not have fins and scales in the sea and the rivers, of all the teeming life of the waters and of all the living creatures that are in the waters, they are to be considered detestable to you. To you, you should consider them detestable. They should be hated things to you. You may not eat their meats. You shall detest their carcasses. Everything in the water that does not have fins and scales is detestable to you. These you shall detest among birds. They are not to be eaten, for they are hated things, abominations. The eagle and the vulture and the buzzard. The kite, every kind of falcon, every kind of raven, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, every species of hawk, the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl, the white owl, the pelican, the carrion vulture, the stork, which is a tall, long bird, all kinds of heron, a particular fish-eating bird, a hopo, a salmon pink colored Eurasian bird, and the bat. And you think about this stuff. You got people out there that eat this stuff, man. If you've ever watched, as somebody that calls themselves a Christian go to another country and look at the stuff that they eat. These local people can sell them bugs. They can sell them all kind of stuff. This is a chocolate covered lizard, and they'll eat it. Eating all kind of stuff. No restraint, no restriction. And you got Christians that are struggling with some of the most chronic health issues at all. Why? Because they violate this. They taught that this don't apply to us. 20. All winged insects that walk on all fours are detestable to you. Yet of all winged insects that walk on all fours, you may eat those which have legs above their feet, which to leap on the ground. Of these you may eat the whole species of migratory locust, of bald locust, of cricket, and of grasshopper. But all other winged insects which are four-footed are detestable to you. By contact with these you will become unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses will become unclean until the evening at dusk. And whoever picks up any of these carcasses shall wash off his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Concerning all the animals which divide the hoof, but do not have split hoof, or which do not chew the cud, they are unclean to you. Whoever touches them becomes unclean. He's not saying that that's not a good sense. Also, the animals that walk on their paws. Some of these countries, they eat dog. You go to Korea, they raise certain breeds of dogs for consumption. Also, the animals that walk on their paws, among all kind of animals that walk on four legs, are unclean to you. Whoever touches their carcasses shall become unclean till the evening. And the one who picks up their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean to you. These are also unclean to you among the swarming things that crawl on the ground and multiply profusely. The mole, the mouse. Remember that passage I read? It was talking about they was up there eating mice. The mole, the mouse, and any kind of lizard. The gecko, the crocodile, the lizard, the sand reptile, the chameleon. These creatures are unclean to you among all that swarm. Whoever touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. Also, anything on which one of them falls after dying becomes unclean, whether it is an article of wood or clothing or skin or a sack. Any article that is used, it must be put in water, and it will be unclean until the evening, then becomes clean. As for the earthenware container in which any of these crawling things falls, whatever it is in, because it's unclean, and you shall break the container. This is the Most High. He's telling you, you should hate it. He didn't say not to only eat it. He said it shall be detestable to you. You shall hate it. And what do we see? What do we see in America? All of these people that claim to love the Most High Yah, but they don't hate the same things that the Most High Yah hate. It's the same thing when it comes to homosexuality. He says an abomination. What do you see all these people out here loving? The Bible says to love. So we got to love homosexuality. We got to love lesbianism. Most High Yah says he hates it. Should be detestable to you. Same thing with the Torah. By doing that stuff, you're making yourself unclean. 34. Any of the food which may be eaten, but on which unclean water falls, shall become unclean. Any liquid they may be drunk in every container shall be unclean. Everything that part of their carcasses falls becomes unclean, and oven or small stove shall be smashed. They are unclean, and shall be unclean to you. Nevertheless, a spring or a cistern reservoir collecting water shall be clean. But whosoever touches one of these carcasses shall be unclean. If a part of their carcass falls, or any seed for sowing which is to be sown, it is clean. But if the water is put on the seed, and a part of the carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. If one of the, so he's letting you know the modifications, because if this stuff touches this stuff, it becomes unclean. If one of the animals that you may eat dies of natural causes, whoever touches the carcass becomes unclean till the evening. And whoever eats some of its meats shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. And whoever picks up its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. Roadkill. Roadkill. You've got something, say for instance, you got a cow that dies of natural causes, and you go out there and say, let's hurry up and butcher it. It's unclean. Now everything that swarms on the ground is detestable. It is not to be eaten. Whatever crawls on its belly, and whatever walks on all fours, and whatever has many feet, to my spiders, all things that swarm on the ground, you shall not eat, for they are detestable. Do not make yourselves loathsome, impure, repulsive, by eating any swarming thing. You shall not make yourselves unclean by them, so as to defile yourselves. For I am Yahweh Elohim, so consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am holy. Here's the thing. People want to say that they followed Messiah, but guess what? Messiah didn't violate this. People say, well, Christians, we can eat it and we can do that. That doesn't apply to this. Didn't Messiah say, I did not come to destroy the law or the prophets? I come to fulfill. I come to carry out. I come to demonstrate. I come to perform. I come to execute. Romans 3:31. Do we do away with the law according to faith? No, on the contrary, we uphold, we establish, we perform, we demonstrate. So you can't be following Messiah and not be following because he wasn't in transgression. See, people will say, oh, it ain't a sin. This is outlining this. This is the law regarding the animal and the bird and everything that moves in the water and everything that swarms the earth, to make distinction between the ceremonially unclean and the ceremonially clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. So it's talking about ceremonial cleanliness and clean and unclean. And here we go. It says, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may be eaten. You got people out there that saying, well, this is only for ceremonial purposes. So if you ain't doing no ceremony, you good. No, it says, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. In conclusion, as believers of Yahweh, we must discern and examine the foods we eat, not only for our physical well-being, but for the prosperity of our souls and alignment with Torah. Man, you got a lot of people out here that think that money is prosperity and your health is prosperity. I'd rather be healthy than have $1 in my pocket. Think about that. You got some people that's got millions of dollars, access to millions of dollars, but yet they don't have the prosperity of health. You know, when you're on that doctor's bed and he's telling you you've got cancer, you've got X, Y, and Z, you got this, money can't help you. People are paying for the best treatments out there, which are not cures, which are not deliverance. You got to think, man, chemotherapy is much money as they're making off of that. And the reason I say that is because it only has a 5% success rate. How many times have you known somebody, it's just a normal trajectory, they're going to put you on chemotherapy because of the money they make off of it, but it's only got a 5% success rate. You got people that are, when you think about it, they're having this cancer that is destroyed in their body, but they go back to eating the same foods that are causing these issues, and then they get it again. This is why they're constantly battling. Women got to start looking at this. Men got to start looking at it. You got people giving testimonies, I was healed of cancer. 6 months later, guess what? They got cancer again. Comes from their doggone diet. Comes from their doggone diet. And because people aren't willing to make a change, not willing to let stuff go, they want to eat. You got to think, man, what a pig consumes. A pig does not eat clean. A pig will eat anything. A pig will eat you. You chop up a human body, a pig will eat it. And you got to think, man, my community, they love them chitlin booty holes. They love them. Be slurping them. You got to think Asian people, they fry them up and put them in fried rice. They're like, oh, this is fried rice. This is fried rice. You know, it's fried rice. Whole house, you're cleaning them things, smell like booty. Smell like badussy. We love it. And think about, man, you're eating something that is a part of your, when it comes to digestive process, it is getting rid of waste, and you're eating that. You're eating waste. You got to think, man. There was a saying people used to, in my family, they used to say, "Oh, I ain't eat nobody chitlins if they got mud in the pot, you know, poop in the pot." You got some people that'll still eat it. Oh, that's a number flavor. Okay. When the doctor gotta constantly stick his finger up your rectum every 6 months because you got these cancers growing in your body. Hey, some people gonna want to make a change and some won't. When you stand, thinking about, you've got swelling in your feet, you got high blood pressure and all this stuff, and you can't leave it alone, hey, choice is yours. Free will. Most High Yah ain't never put no gun in nobody's head. Never put no gun in nobody's head to live righteous. What we consume is not just a matter of appetite, it's a matter of obedience and spiritual discipline. Yahweh's word makes it clear that his laws were given for our good, that we may live proper in the land that he has blessed us with. And you got to think, man, when you think about in exile, man, we've been scattered. The children of Israel have been scattered to the four corners of the earth. And wherever they've been scattered to, these nations, these countries have their own nutritional guidance. That doesn't change the fact that you are children of the Most High Yah. You're children of Israel, and the Most High Yah gave you some instructions. So you can take this advice that the doctors, that Western culture is giving you, but the Most High Yah Creator gave you divine guidance. And you think about it, if you're constantly in a state of uncleanliness, you're not going to be holy. In order to be constantly unclean, you got to be violating the Torah. And how many of these people are walking around talking about they're Christians, they're Catholics, all kind of denomination, I'm Baptist, I'm this, and you love rejecting the instructions of the Most High. And this right here is for your benefit. When we choose to honor his dietary instructions, we are actively rejecting the corruption of this world and embracing the divine order he established from the beginning. By being mindful of what we eat, we demonstrate our reverence for his word, protect our bodies as temples of his ruach. Think about that. See, people don't think about the protection of our temple. The word says, man, you are the temple of the living Elohim. His spirit dwells in you. He says the Most High doesn't dwell in temples made by the hands of man. People don't even realize they are the church. And walk in his wisdom that leads to life, health, and spiritual alignment with the Most High. You wonder why you can't get a prayer through. You wonder why. You think about this. It says I want to say it's in Psalms or Proverbs, they that reject hearing the law, their prayers are an abomination. So the minute you talk about this, you talk about Leviticus dietary laws. Oh, that's for Judaism. You got people, the minute you mention this, they got a spirit of rejecting Yah's truth. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Think about that. And you wonder why they got these issues. But man, there's a old phrase out there. A fool knows everything, but the wise is willing to learn. And I'd rather be wise and willing to learn according to righteousness in order for my health's sake, for my prosperity. Work out your salvation. And you look at this, man, some people that claim to be devout, holy, can memorize some scriptures. Man, look at lifestyle. Look at lifestyle. Look at some of the stuff. If you go to some of these church barbecue, look at some of the stuff that these Sunday sun worshiping, first day worshipers are actually doing. They're out there cooking and praying over these abominations. I tell you, man, I think before I lived here and I was in South Carolina, man, I remember they had a concert, and in order to fund money to pay for this concert, what did they do? They were selling pulled pork sandwiches, loading the people up with stuff that the Most High Yah says it should be detestable to you. You should hate it. It's an abomination. People giving compliments to the chef. Chef Kid, this the best wine I've ever had. What is that barbecue sauce you put on this wine? To play these concerts, and the Most High Yah is a part of none of it. A part of none of it. I'm telling you, man, you can reject the will of the Most High Yah all you want, but see for yourself. When you're in that doctor's office and they're telling you got some serious issues, that's your choice and your choice alone. The book said, man, I ain't never seen the righteous forsaken. Glory to the King. The King is coming. Turn from your sins. Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Close to the Yah Ministries. Kicking that thing gun barrel straight.